Hello and welcome back to more Metroid NES Edition. This is a post-audio recording because the original audio for this episode got corrupted and was unsalvageable, and I didn't want to have to re-record the entire episode, visuals and all. The bright side is, though, is that I have already taken the liberty to cut all pauses and what have you, and speed up all other sections. So, I forgot about that damn thing knocking me through the door. So yeah, I started off by going into this room to collect some more missiles, and then I just head back out through the door I came from, because continuing to go left here, you just run into a dead end with nothing. There's like a few identical rooms and whatnot, but there's literally no point in going that way. In the remake, you have to go that way to activate the lifts and whatnot, but the pulley systems. But in this game, yeah, there's no point in going there. One of the things I like about Zero Mission is that they make various rooms that were pointless in the original actually have a purpose. And then I go through here and I pick up another energy tank. After figuring out how to get there, I tried bombing my way up there, but that was a bust. Yay, more health! Funny thing about energy tanks, and I kind of discovered this later on in this episode, there's more energy tanks in the game than you can actually have energy tank things on screen. Oh, and here's a first speed up. I wasn't aware that I needed to be a little bit higher to get out. I was like, why is this thing over here blocking me? And then all of a sudden I was like, maybe, oh, there's another path up here, okay. For some reason I was just not landing in it or whatever. The morph ball physics in this game is very strange compared to other Metroid games. I've never really had a chance to really talk about it before, because I'm always being like, oh, don't hit me, blah, and shit like that. But no, it's kind of like in the other Metroid games, if I'm falling as a morph ball, but I'm holding a direction while against the wall, if there's any sort of nook or alcove for the morph ball to fall into, it just will automatically happen. But that doesn't always seem to be the case in this game. I'm not entirely sure as to why. I really couldn't tell you. Oh, I almost kind of missed seeing part of the missile sprite wrapping there. And speaking of missile sprites, more missiles, yay! I meant the missile tank sprite. It's just kind of like wrapping around the screen a little bit there. Whew. Another thing I never mentioned was just how much I really appreciate the wave beam in this game. In most other NES games that have, like, wave guns or wave beams or whatnot, the firing arc can often have the beam, like, dodge what you're trying to shoot at. But not as much in this game, as the wave arcs are much, much tighter. Much more focused, and on top of that, the projectile is rather large, so it's harder for it to just dodge enemies. I think I have seen it happen, but it doesn't happen all that often. Oh, that door right there, that door, I don't break it open because there is a way to wrap around to it, though I end up doing it in a rather odd fashion. Instead, I go down here to show off something that I thought was kind of neat in the original game, something that we don't see in the remake, though we do kind of see it in Super Metroid, and that is Fake Kraid, Mini Kraid. I shall call him Mini Kraid. You can tell he's the fake by having a blue fur in the back. Interestingly enough, Super Mario Bros. Lost Levels kind of does a similar thing with a fake Bowser in, like, the final castle and final areas where there's, like, a fake Bowser that's bluish. Though in All-Stars version, said fake Bowser looks exactly the same as normal Bowser. Oh, and back there, I was just like, wait, I can go through these? I didn't know that. So, yeah, originally, when going through here, I was thinking I would, like, wrap around and show the wraparound that gets back up to that red door that we saw up there. And I was kind of looking at the map here, and I was like, oh, you know, if only I could just go straight down, I could just go straight to Kraid, but it doesn't seem like that's a possibility. If only I could... And then I bombed that block, and I was like, wait a minute. Oh, I can go straight down to Kraid. Well, I didn't know that. Okay, sure, let's do this. Why not? And, you know, here's the Kraid fight. I pretty much just shoot a whole bunch. If you're good with the Ice Beam, you can freeze his projectile. Because I don't have the Ice Beam, I have the Wave Beam, which I decided to use for this run since it's mostly ignored. But you can freeze, like, his spike projectiles and then put your back up against it and just hammer away at him. And then he dies and gives me 75 more missiles. I destroy that. And then, see, that's what I mean about the morph ball physics. Like, I'm holding right that entire time, and she's just not ducking in the alcove. But if I fall from there and hold right, then I go in there for... I don't know why. What I was doing before would have worked in other Metroid games, but it doesn't work here, so I'm like, okay, whatever. Sure. Aha. What is kind of funny about wave attacks in most NES games that the Wave Beam does sort of follow trend with is that, for one, wave attacks in most NES games tend to be one of the stronger types of attacks you can use, sometimes the strongest, though the fact that they can miss their target tends to offset that. Oh. I didn't edit that out. Whoops. I probably should have edited out using the rewinds for this climb, but whatever. This climb is just... This whole climb is fucking stupid as hell. I hate it. Like, it felt so good in Zero Mission to just shine Spark up this shaft and be like, screw you. And then I get stuck in the block somehow. I didn't even know how that happened. Yeah, but in most NES games, wave attacks are usually some of the strongest attacks. Either wave attacks or laser attacks tend to be the strongest attacks in most NES games. With the Plasma Beam from Metroid 2 kind of fitting more into that second category. But, yeah, I do like how the Wave Beam doesn't have the tendency of dodging its intended target. At least not as much, because of the tighter, more focused waves and the larger size of the projectile in general. So, you know, that was always nice. I really hate the fact that there's no Ice Beam here, because I would have loved to have just collected an Ice Beam... Oh, excuse me, on my way out. In this respect, maybe I should have done the, oh, no, because then I wouldn't have gotten the Wave Beam as early. Part of the reason I did Ridley first and then Kraid was to just kind of mix things up a little bit, do things differently than how I did them in Zero Mission, but the other reason for it is because in this game, Kraid is usually considered harder. Now, here, after struggling with some Joy-Con drift, I wanted to attempt to do, like, an advanced speedrunning trick where I jump out of Morph Ball or whatever, but I couldn't do it. It was, like, just not something I'm good at. More rewind shenanigans. I wanted to see if I could kill him with the wave beam. Because it looks like he's taking damage, but I think the only thing that can kill some of those rippers is the screw attack. Then over here, because I never did show the wraparound for that one door, I was contemplating doing that here. And then I try this bomb jumping trick, this like infinite bomb jump trick here that I was never able to do in the NES game. The timing is just so weird. Like, I still don't know how I managed to do that. Like, literally, I just mashed the B button and held right and prayed, and it eventually worked. I could not tell you how I managed to do that. But yeah, that red door we saw earlier, right before Fake Kraid, this is the room that it leads to. This is the wraparound. That's why I didn't waste missiles on that door. My original intent... the one room you saw that looks identical to the one where I did the bomb jump. Well, I'll sort of talk about it when we get back to it, but yeah, I was just kind of going over there to prove that that is that same red door. But, after you beat Fake Kraid and you go into that one room that I used the bomb to get down into Kraid, if you beam the door to the right, you'll go to a small room where you climb up. And, I guess I was farming for supplies or whatever. Yeah, you'll come to a small room where you climb up, and then you'll come out that other door, that other blue door on the right side there, and then you climb up here, go through this blue door. And more copy-paste room shenanigans. The physics in the first Metroid is just really odd. Like, the physics in every Metroid game is slightly different than each other, but to a point, they're somewhat similar. But yeah, this game's physics are very odd. Anyways, I took this door because it eventually wraps around back up to the top and lets me get out of here. If you don't have the ice beam, then this is kind of your only way out other than death warping. Which I didn't want to do because then that would start me back with 30 health and no energy tanks. It's like, then I'd have to farm for health, and I just don't want to do that. Plus, I mean, yeah, there were a few times where I would have died without rewinds, because I would have just been stuck in a freaking I would have been stuck in a lava pit in Norfair and just not have been able to jump out. But in my opinion, that's kind of bad design, but whatever. So, yeah, I just make my way back out. Killing the weird, goofy crab monsters. Oh, one thing I didn't comment on is, in a previous area, I didn't mention this when it came up, but you could kind of see a crab monster sort of warping to the top, screen warping to the top, and just spinning around, just spazzing out. It looked kind of funny. I wish I had mentioned that when it actually happened, but oh well. I kind of missed it a little bit. Here they actually designate which rippers are affected by the screw attack and which ones aren't by making the red ones the ones affected by the screw attack and the yellow ones not. But back in Kraid's lair, there were yellow ones that could be affected by the screw attacks. It was like, consistency. What's that, I guess? Past me was probably salty about not being able to get an ice beam before leaving Kraid's lair, and was like, Maybe I could do a bomb jump up there to the stupid energy tank or whatever, but spoiler alert, I can't. Ow. Sort of running out of things to say. Wave beam that, and then I just sped up a bunch of bomb jump attempts. I think I actually do somewhat get close, like, because after doing a bomb jump, there's like a frame or so where the game thinks you're on the ground, and then you can sort of jump again. That's how I managed to get the Varia suit early. I'm no speedrunner, which I think is painfully obvious at this point. I do know a few, like, speedrunner strats. I do sort of understand what goes into some of them, and I can kind of make use of them. Not to the same proficiency that they can, but I can sort of do a few things here or there. I probably could have gotten that energy tank using the bomb jumping method that I was attempting. One attempt got really close. I just missed it by like a few pixels or so. Like, oh boy. So, you know, just eventually I was just like, I had enough and I gave up. And I just started climbing up here so I could go back, get the ice beam. Like, I don't understand why they made it so that you had to physically pick up the ice beam or the wave beam. Like they do. Like, okay, I get that beam stacking wasn't a thing yet, but for fuck's sake, even Mega Man had like a pause menu where you can switch on and off different things. Like, they gave you that ability in Super Metroid to switch on and off certain things, but there was almost no point in doing so because most of your beams could stack and inherit all of the abilities of the other beams, plus add even more power to it, so it was almost like, why would you turn off the other I mean, aside from the super missile, I mean, not super missile, but power bomb combos, and the, well, I guess just to see what each beam was like on its own if you wanted to, or if you wanted to switch between using either Spazer Beam or Plasma Beam, though there's really no reason to do that, because if you have Wave Beam plus Plasma Beam turned on, then the Plasma and Wave turn into two beams that has, like, the same, sort of like the same hit radius as the Spazer Beam, so it was almost pointless. And the only reason you can't have all the beams turned on is actually due to memory limitations on the Super Nintendo. Which is why if you do glitch it to have all beams turned on, it can cause like weird effects to the game. It can just do some really bizarre things. So that's why, but I still really don't like how this game in particular forces you to do, like, one or the other, and even Metroid 2 does that as well. It's like, at least give me like a menu or something where I can switch between the two on the fly, I guess. I suppose they wanted to make you have to choose, but nah. It's like, the ice beam is kind of required. Unlike Zero Mission, you don't actually have to kill all the Metroids in the room in order to advance, but they'll harass you relentlessly while you're trying to missile open a door, which, a reminder, in this game takes 5 missiles to open said door, rather than just 1. So, yeah, like, even if you're not gonna kill them with the ice beam, you might as well use it to, like, freeze them and just get them out of your hair. Which makes me wonder, how exactly did anyone ever figure out that in order to actually kill a Metroid, you had to freeze them and then hit them with 5 missiles? Like, because no other enemy works on that sort of mechanic. Like, you could maybe freeze an enemy and then shoot a missile at them, but usually, even in cases like that, the enemy is just already prone to being killed by missiles in the first place. So, like, how would anyone have ever even figured it? And it's not even like you freeze them and shoot 1 missile at them and they're dead. It's you freeze them and you have to shoot 5 freaking missiles at them in order to off them. And it's like, how would anyone have ever... Like, I didn't even figure that out in Super Metroid. The only way I figured out how to kill Metroids in Super Metroid was 3 power bombs. I didn't even know that freezing them worked. For the longest time, I had a false memory that freezing them didn't even work, but that's probably because I didn't have the Ice Beam even equipped, as I would often turn it off. That's kind of funny. Oh, here's just some shenanigans where I keep trying to freeze enemies in place to get that energy tank. I probably should have sped this up, but I didn't. It takes longer than it should for me to get an enemy into a good position. Eventually, I just lead the Rio from the other room over into here, but that takes a while for me to do. Anyways, as I was saying, though, the only way I could figure out how to kill Metroids in Super Metroid was to use 3 power bombs, and I'm not even sure how I arrived to the conclusion that I needed 3 of them when 1 didn't even seem to work. I guess I just hammered away at them while I was desperate. But, yeah. So again, I'm like, I'm not even sure how or why people figured that out. I'm sure once somebody did figure it out, you know, they started passing that information along to their friends. Maybe it was something maybe it's something that somebody saw on a Nintendo Power or something at one point. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure how you would even begin to deduce that as a possibility with the information that you're given. That's one of my biggest pet peeves in old game design. I don't mind it so much when there's just this obscure thing that you didn't try or something, or if there's like some information that a person gives you and you just weren't diligent enough to write it down and whatnot, and you didn't comb through your notes like in old adventure games and whatnot. That I can sort of understand, but in a game like this, where it's like, okay, first you have to freeze them, and then you have to pump 5 missiles into them, and they're the only enemy in the game that works like this, and this isn't a game that gives you, like, tips or clues or whatever, so you just have to think, okay, let me first freeze them with the Ice Beam, which I'm sure a lot of players... there's a lot of players who would probably have had the Wave Beam, since that's the more powerful beam option. They might not even have had the Ice Beam, so they probably wouldn't even have thought to try that. Oh, went the wrong way. But then, you know... once frozen, then you have to think, well, okay, now that they're frozen, and only while they're frozen, I have to hit select, choose my missiles, which is just hitting select. I have to press select to equip my missiles, and then just blast them with missiles until they disappear. And it's like, how would you have thought to have done that? Like, this is way before it became... like, nowadays, the whole Metroids are weak to ice and whatnot is almost a trope at this point. It's fairly well known amongst Metroid players, but I'm talking, like, back in the day, how would anyone have figured that out? Just, like, wow. Oh, and there's the little faces. Something I never really noticed before. And just shoot these statues, make the bridge appear. I don't do bridge skip. And, you know, this is the usual outro part of the video where I'm like, oh, see you guys later. The next video has already been recorded, and it will be live commentary again, alright? See you guys. Bye.